Okay. Hi, Gail. Hi, Joanne.
Superintendent. Good. Oh, not so much. Oh, not so much. No.
Wow. Yes, ma'am, we're in the dark. Education in Arizona.
So there you go. Stand up, put your arms up in the air. Repeat a coherent sentence. Make sure that you're okay. Next Thursday. Today is Saturday. Okay, yeah.
Everyone's talking about technology.
While we wait for them to adjust the lights just a little bit, would everybody please stand and join in a moment of silence? I ask that as we do so, we keep in mind the men and women who serve us across our state, across our nation, around the world, and then we will join in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here today. I'm Diane Douglas. I have the honor and privilege of serving you as Arizona Superintendent of Public Instruction. We're here today to have what we call our listening tour. When I was out campaigning for this office, it probably isn't a secret to a lot of people that I thought we were on the wrong direction with education at the standards that we had adopted back in 2010. But what I can't do as Arizona's superintendent is unilaterally just change them and make them something different. But what I can do is hold public hearings such as this one, and I'm doing it all around the state, to get input on them and to consider revisions to them. They can't be just static. That would never be in the best interest of our children. So we'll look forward and make determinations of how we can always keep improving education for the children of Arizona. Let me first, before I go on any further, make some introductions. This is Representative Ackerley from LE2. We get quite a good turnout from our legislators to hear what's on your minds about education, so I apologize that I don't have these districts right off the top of my head. And on this side is Dr. Lila Williams. She's an associate superintendent with the department, and she is over accountability, assessment, and adult education. So if you'd like to.
Well, again, I would like to also thank you all for showing up, getting up a Saturday morning to come out and join the conversation. I do represent Legislative District 2, which represents all of Santa Cruz County in the I-19 corridor. So I realize most people from Cochise County here, but if you do happen to live on the other side of the line in Santa Cruz County, I do have the honor of representing. My day job, besides serving the legislature, my day job is as a high school physics teacher. So I am well aware of the challenges that face education in Arizona. And we have some fundamental changes that we have to make, and we really have to start doing it in relatively short order. And so I'm here to listen and get input and take those recommendations and see if we can put them into action so that we can start moving our education system forward. So thank you again for coming out, and I look forward to hearing your comments.
Good morning. Thank you all for coming out on a Saturday morning. It's always exciting to come down to Syracuse, especially since my folks live here, so it's fun to come visit and spend some time. As everyone has mentioned today, this really has been a great opportunity for myself and my colleagues at the department, the other associate superintendents, so that we can hear from parents, teachers, anyone who wishes to have comments around education. It helps us move forward and grow and continually look at where there are areas to improve and to support the work and the mission of the superintendent. So thank you all very much.
Okay, so let's kind of set a few ground rules, if you will. First of all, this listening tour is not about politics, past, present, or future, or any past, present, or future campaigns. It's about hearing current issues. So we ask that if you're running for something or thinking about running for something, you know, that's not what we're doing from the podium here. This is about K-12 education, so it can be any topic of interest to you on K-12 education. It might be standards, curriculum, funding, assessment. It's all open and fair game as long as it's about K-12. This is a two-part tour. We're out here now. We call it our listening tour. We'll take all the information back that we've received and heard. We're 7 locations, 14 locations across seven different areas of the state. So we'll be out listening. We'll take that back to the department, and with the help of many in the department, we'll look at what can we do with that information. Some of it may be recommendations to the legislature. Some of it may be recommendations we take to the State Board of Ed. I think some of what we've heard will help the Department of Education better serve the students and the parents of Arizona. Then we will be back out again in the fall to bring you the results of the feedback you've given us and what we believe that we can do with it and how we can use that to help improve Arizona. So we'll be back in the fall. There's cards if you want to speak. Unlike school board or city council meetings, you're not on a 2-minute time limit here. We don't have a time limit per se. We just ask that you be respectful of all your fellow citizens who are here to speak today and not overly monopolize them. Like if you probably get about that 5-minute-ish range, we're going to have someone stand up and probably give you a little, could you wrap it up? Now we've got a group today in Tucson. We probably had about 250 people, and we weren't able to get everybody in, which really kind of made me a little sad. But what we can do is if we circle through and everybody who wants to speak has spoken, then you may be able to come up and add a few more thoughts if time allows and we're still able to stay in the facility. Questions will be deemed rhetorical for today's. We're not going to go back and forth. So if you ask a question, it will be captured as part of the input, and we will work on answering those for you. If they're very simple questions and answers, and we really haven't had any of those, most of the questions have been very complex issues that will need to be addressed more fully. But if there's something that we can answer very quickly, we would be willing to put that up on the website. You'll see flipping through here as we go through that if you don't want to speak, we have forms you can fill out to give your feedback. If that's your preference, we have website available in order for you to give feedback, whatever your preference would be. But we really want to hear. Another thing, just briefly, is unlike city council or school board meetings, I'm not going to tell you if somebody already made your comment, please don't make it. We want to hear if that's a shared comment or a shared thought, and how much weight does that have by the people who are in attendance today. So you don't have to necessarily reiterate the point, but you can say that I agree with it and that it's important to you. Just lastly, before we sit down, or I sit down and be quiet, I'd just like to recognize any other elected officials in the audience. If there's any school board members, would you please stand up? If you have an outdoor voice, you can tell everybody your name and which board you're on.
Good morning. I think everybody knows most of them here at this unified school district.
And I'm going to city council member.
Okay, any county?
May Custody, City Council, Sierra Vista. Pretty Mary.
Okay, so thank you all for your service. Oh, did we miss somebody? Thank you all for your service. We appreciate all that you do.
Jane Strang, Cochise College Governing Board Trustee.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you all for being here today. And with that, we're literally going to sit here and listen to all that you have to say. So, Charles, you have.
All right, everyone, I'm Charles Tack. I'm also with the Department of Education. Thank you again for being here, especially on a Saturday. Just wanted to go over, I'm going to be helping move through with the speakers, make sure everyone has a chance to speak. So what I'll be doing is I'll be calling off names in groups of 5. If you hear your name, you can feel free to come down a little closer to the stage, and Mike, and you can go ahead and start as soon as you're up in the order. We I have Ashley here collecting cards, so if you would like to turn in a card at any point during the presentation, go ahead and just kind of hold it up, and Ashley will come grab that from you. And we also ask that you do just tell us your name when you approach the mic, so that we can record who is speaking and in what order. So with that, I'll call our first 5 names. I'll do my best not to butcher anyone's name, but no promises. I have Tom Bouchon, Eda Kralovich, Stephanie Fuller, Alice Aboa, and Tammy Birch, our first 5 speakers.
Hello. My name is Tom Buckman, and I teach at Tombstone High School. I teach English, history, economics, drama, political science. I think that's my name. And I also teach at Cochise College. I teach English, film, and philosophy there. I'm fairly new to education. I've only been a teacher for 8 years now. I've got to say, it's beyond belief. at all levels, it's a joke. It's really what it is. In fact, it's so bad that I'm at the point where I am convinced that public education at the state and federal level should be gutted, and it should be privatized. I know I'm not going to make very many friends with that statement, but it is truly a mess. I know that won't happen, or at least not in the near future. But I do believe that one of the first things that has to be worked on is getting rid of Common Core. And for the reason, not because it is based on standardized testing by any stretch. I'm all for standardized testing. I am just completely against federalized standardized testing. Federal government does not belong in education, in my opinion. It has done more damage to education than probably any other organization. And it needs to be removed, not coddled and given more power over education, which is exactly what Common Core is. I'd also like to say a little bit on teaching certification. I went through the process, and it's, again, I think it's a joke. It's a complete waste of time. I believe that all teachers should have at least a bachelor's degree in the topic that they teach. That might not be as completely necessary, and some of the teaching courses might be needed for some of the lower levels, elementary and so forth. But middle school through high school, I believe that the minimum that a teacher should have is a BA, minimum, in what they teach, in the subject areas that they teach. And they should teach their subject areas. They shouldn't be teaching the gobbledygook and the nonsense that I see in some of the classrooms. I mean, it's mind-boggling. Somebody says, well, it gives an answer, and it's, well, you're close, and they're not even close at all, but you can't hurt their feelings, because it's, I don't know, I don't understand the psychology of education when it comes to that point. I'm not saying that you get down on kids and yell at them or anything like that. No, but you correct them when they make mistakes. That's a teacher's job, in my opinion. Not to let them go. Continue making mistakes. Failure is good. We learn from failure. Everybody does. The last thing I'd like to say is I have read so many books on education. So many books on education. I just read one last week that I just wanted to share with you, because I think everybody that is in education and wants to get into education should read it. It's a very short book. It's only 74 pages long. It's called Teaching Johnny to Think. I highly suggest that everybody read this book. Like I said, 74 pages. You can read it in a day or two. And it's an amazing, he comes up with a philosophy of education, which is something that this country and this state is lacking. And if you don't have a philosophy to work from, you don't have anything to work with. That's it. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Etta Kolovec. I'm the Director of Secondary Teacher Education Programs at the University of Arizona South. Etta Kolovec. Thank you for doing this listening tour. I think it's a really interesting way for you to get a sense of what people around the state are dealing with in terms of the schools. I'm sorry you did it in Sierra Vista rather than holding this in Bisbee, where the auditorium clocks don't work and the lights are mostly broken. But anyway, there's a lot of poverty here, but you already know that. I'd like to just respond to the issue about Common Core. I'm a big fan of the Common Core. I'm not a fan of standardized testing, but I think it's really important that we share a notion of curriculum across the state, across the nation. But mostly what I just would like to share with you is my concerns about the disarray in the Department of Education and about the problems that those of us in teacher education face with the current plan for the state approval of teacher education programs, when the material that we are going to be evaluated on is not ready and available to the heads of programs. So I encourage you, when you think about redundancy in education, to take a look at the process the state currently uses for approving teacher education programs. I encourage you to streamline it. Those of us in public universities in Arizona have a tremendous amount of oversight on our programs at the university level and also at the APO level. So please reconsider the role of the state in teacher certification program approval. It's very, very cumbersome, and it keeps us from being able to do the job that we're set out to do. Thank you.
My name is Stephanie Ford, excuse me, and I work at one of the local public school district offices. And I guess my question has to do with funding of education. If our children are so important, if having them learn is so important, why are our teachers at poverty level when they first start working? Why have our school districts not been able to give raises to other employees in 3 to 5 years or more? How do you expect to keep quality people in the jobs? My name is Stephanie Ford. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Alice Novoa, and I was born and raised in Douglas, Arizona. And I'm here as a concerned citizen. My family been here since 1864 and before, when Cochise County used to be Pima County. It's a very, very great concern of what's happening to our nation. I'm into curriculum, that's what I'm going to talk about, and then I'm going to get into the funding. And I'm going to try to be as quick as possible. First of all, when it comes to curriculum, we are plagiarizing the minds of our children with Common Core. And what's happening right now, I agree with this man from Cochise County because he is seeing the corruption in Cochise County and beyond. And I'm going to get into curriculum, I'm getting into ethnic studies. Ethnic studies needs to be stopped at its core. The culture that is being taught to the Latino kids, or really the illegal kids, is Aztlán. And I'm going to spell it out so people will do the research before you say that I am crazy. Aztlán, you spell it A, Z as in zebra, T as in Tom, L as in love, A, N, which would be the same rule. Aztlán is a radical, and you will be offended again. Radical, but if you're going to have a solution for a problem, we always go to the root of the problem and uproot the evil plantation. Aztlán is a radical, Islamic, Mexican Catholic movement that plans on taking over the United States, getting rid of and killing all American Europeans and all OTMs other than Mexican. I'm a citizen with Mexico. I am. I'm talking about education now. They're teaching ethnic studies in the public schools. Aztlán has to be stopped. We have elected officials and appointed officials who are part of the Aztlán movement, who are teaching our children segregation. They're teaching them not only segregation, they're teaching them to be anti-Semitic. And I would tell people to look into the nation of Aztlán. David Garcia, who was a gentleman that was running against you, Ms. Douglas, that gentleman is an Aztlanero. He was praising Common Core. Just a minute. He was praising
Please be
Common
respectful
Core.
of everyone's
Yes.
abilities.
Just respect. He was into Common Core. He was pro-choice. The reason he was pro-choice is because he knew that the kids or the students from the United States in the federal level and the state level would be dummied down, while the Aztlán movement would rise in teaching their illegal students that we stole their territory. Now I'm just here, and I can tell everybody again to get into Nation of Aztlán and YouTube and start getting into other YouTube series. We stopped ethnic studies in the Tucson Unified School District. We stopped it. However, they brought it back under another name, I don't remember the next name, but anyway, under culture, whatever, but they're still teaching it. And Mrs. Douglas, what's happening also going to Common Core is the same thing. What's going on in Common Core, it was a Bill Gates and Melinda Gates idea. They are the ones who are behind this. Billions of dollars has been poured out, and that is why you will see most or a lot of educators that are for Common Core. Why? Because they will be making more money. However, it is the minds of the children who are being destroyed, and we will choose not to have our children dummied down. And I will say this, why are you not going to Douglas, Arizona, which is infiltrated with illegals? Why are you not going to Santa Cruz County, to Nogales, Arizona, where it's also infiltrated with illegal students? I will give you the law. U.S. Code 181015, Section 8, paraphrasing, any person being a United States citizen, pretending to be a United States citizen, or getting welfare food stamps and access it's 5 years federal prison with a $7,000 fine. And on Section F, it says anybody pretending to be a United States citizen and is registered to vote and votes on any county, local, state, or federal level, or any initiative, referendum, or recall is 5 years federal prison and a $7,000 fine. You'll say, why did you bring this up, Alice? We have over 16 million illegals in our country, and they are registered to vote. The loophole in the voters registration, you will have to be a United States citizen, but it does not require a birth certificate. I will round that out right now. Stop Common Core. Stop the Common Core. They plan, and they're probably doing it already, or they're in the process of doing, where they will be putting biosensor bracelets on our children, so to see how they react to Common Core, an experiment of the gates. So to make us all good little slaves while the elite are getting to the top. There was only 2 educators who were part of when this thing was introduced, the Common Core. Arizona standards that we have right now is really Common Core, and it has to be solved. We have to start with Ms. Diane Douglas, and Ms. Douglas, you won because we, United States citizens, hearing this in Arizona, we voted for you because you said you were going to stop Common Core immediately. However, Doozy, who is dancing with us now, has stopped you because he's pro-choice. And everything I just said, I have material evidence for. And teach the real roots and the real history of our country, and quit trying to bring other cultures in. And also, Islam has to go, the Mecha clubs have to go, because these people are here to destroy our nation. And I thank you so much, and have a very blessed day.
And before Tammy speaks, I just wanted to read off our next group of 5 names, just so that we can give those folks a chance to come to the front. I have Andrea Rupp, Karen Elliott, Patsy Sartain, Kimberly Jones with Jalen Jones, and then Karen Elliott. I feel like Karen may have 2 cards up here. Go ahead, Tammy.
Good morning, can you hear me? Yes. All right, my name is Tammy Birch, given name Tamara. I'm from Vista, Arizona. I've taught maybe 45 years of my life. Infant toddlers, Head Start, preschool, kindergarten overseas, and in Arizona, and K-8. I'm retired, but I'm still subbing in 3 different districts in the county. My heart was with children. I teach them to think with their head and act with their heart. All right, my main concerns, I try not to get into the budget issue, but I can't separate the money from what's best for kids. So here we go. Thank you for being here, everyone. I continue this discussion, I hope, with teachers and administrators and parents in the county. All right. Diane Douglas says the Arizona Department of Superintendent of Public Instruction. I stress that word public. I want to know how you are improving education. What are your goals? What are your actions? How do you speak for the children and the parents and the teachers? I fear that we are slamming, going down, rushing to the bottom instead of going towards the top. My understanding is with all the funding cuts, we are 50th in the nation as far as what is given for students per pupil. And as far as equality goes, I believe in equality of education, whatever race, religion, whatever, we all need to have the same monies coming towards us. So maybe we need to look at our tax system. So Maricopa County, which has more corporate taxes, Port Cochise County, the state is asking us to give more money that we really don't have towards education. As far as taxes go, yes, we want corporations and business to bring in money to our state. But really, I mean, businesses look at your quality of education and where we rank. That's not going to attract quality teachers or businesses into our state. Another concern is communication. This meeting right here proves that we are needing and desiring communication about education. Perhaps we need to have more dialogue with the county superintendents, newsletters, email, Skype. I don't know what it takes, but we need to hear all people. Obviously, the people here today are busy and couldn't give up some of their time, but they all have important views. I do not agree with some of the speakers today as far as Common Core or not having public education. I think the majority of the people in this room are products of public education, and I think we are proud products of that. As far as testing goes, I've asked different administrators in the county what's going on with Arizona Merit. I don't know. I don't know the difference between Ames and Common Core. To me, they seem like we're teaching to the standards. I have 180 standards to teach in kindergarten, just in math. And I'm a reading specialist. I got those kids to read. That is my dream and my goal to make reality. Now, the testing, my understanding of Arizona Merit from an administrator is that it's technology-based. If we're not funding their technology and have people to work on those glitches with technology, I think those tests are very frustrating for third graders to scroll down and read a story and have to go back. I don't think those children should be interrupted during a test. I just think too much of our evaluations are based on one test score for one day.
Anyway,
I just appreciate being here, and I'm just wanting what's best for kids, and that's what I think we should do is fund public education, less money for private prisons, like private profit-making prisons, just support public education. Thank you.
Andrea?
Good morning. I'm a mother of two students who were in the Sierra Vista public school system, who are no longer in the school system. I pulled them. Yeah, my name's Ian, very rough, sorry. This year was a really rough year on many different levels. One was a major lack of communication on teacher part. Another one was a big push with, both my boys were diagnosed based on a questionnaire, ADD/ADHD. And so we did try medications. I felt like the teachers were a big component of medication, but both of my boys had difficulties. Well, the one, it didn't even work. The other one had hallucinations, and so we ended up taking off the medications. And it really didn't work all that well anyway. And I felt like the teachers were, or the one particular teacher was pushing meds. And it didn't even really help anyway, but, and they still struggled with school. Their grades were, my older son, who has never had anything lower than a C on his report card, ended up with 40s and 1 F this year at the fourth quarter. He really struggled with missing assignments, and so we tried to communicate with the teacher throughout the year. I was told that there is no communication in 6th grade because she's preparing them for next year, middle school. So I guess, so finally at the end of the year, I just kind of gave up because trying to communicate with her. My son isn't that great of a communicator. She told me that she wanted to put the full responsibility on him, which I was like, well, he's only 12. But anyway, and then my other son kind of struggled too as well, but he
she wanted to retain him, and he got 3 threes and 2 and 1, and she wanted to retain him in this grade, for my other teacher's son wanted to pass. My other son with 40s and enough. That doesn't make sense to me. I worked really hard. I tried to talk to the principal. I had lack of support from him, really. I think all he did was listen to me and kind of, okay, but there was no results. I mean, the teacher would call me. I still ended up with the same results, no matter how much communication or how much I tried to fix whatever issues were. Not saying that my son didn't have any kind of responsibility in some of this, but the lack of communication was really horrible. And as a parent, this is the first time my son's ever had these kind of grades, and so it's new to me, and I'm trying to figure out what the problem is. But a lot of it had to do with lack of communication and trying to work with the teachers. I was really frustrated, so I ended up pulling both of them from this district, and I'm ready to homeschool currently, but I ended up that one of them's going to go to private school now, and hopefully get better help. I'm not sure how to explain how this all happened, because it's never happened before, but it was just a really awful year. So on behalf of my boys, I don't know how to explain any of this, but very, very frustrating. So, and I just wanted to express my frustrations and at least say thanks for listening. Thank you.
My name is Patsy Sartain. I'm sorry, Patsy Sartain. I moved to Arizona about 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, from Mississippi. As you can tell, I have a little southern accent. I found the first year, my child has multiple disabilities. She is blind, she has seizures, and she has sensory processing deficits, quite a few things going on. First of all, I just want to touch upon testing. I am just horrified by what I've read in regards to the new testing for children and how they are forced to continue. I know that next year when my child does have to go through this testing, it's going to be a very difficult process because my child is not going to be pushed to continue testing and throw her into having seizures. I've expressed that to the school. She started out in the middle school. When we first moved here, she was in the middle school. It was pretty much a pleasant experience in the middle school, but when we made it up to high school level, it has been one thing after the other. I don't see it necessarily as a funding issue as much as it is that funding is not used wisely. Parents are not listened to in the IEP process. Verbal children are put with nonverbal children. Teachers are not supported in the classroom by administrators or anyone else for that matter necessarily, because when they ask for things or say that there's things that they need to be able to be effective with children that are in their classroom, they get nothing. They get lip service, they get nothing. And if you don't have a parent that is willing to go the distance and make the most noise, that teacher is never going to get that support. The state of Arizona, and particularly Sierra Vista School District, is failing to access all the funding that is available to the school district. And that's been something that I have continuously talked about during the course of the 3 years that I have been here, in that there is a federal quota program for children that are blind and visually impaired in each state, where there's money set aside that is supposed to go to that particular child that is registered. I found out this year, when my child was in middle school, the middle school accessed that federal quota money that was put in that account for her. When she got to the high school level, and I found out this year that the monies that is supposed to go to my child in this school is going to the School for the Blind in Tucson. And this is a federal program. It's not supposed to go except to the particular child that it is assigned to. So the school district is kind of cutting their nose off to spite their face in contracting with the School for the Blind to serve children that are visually blind and visually impaired in their school district, when the School for the Blind is accessing the funding that should go to this particular school and this particular student. And also, then the School for the Blind is charging the school district to come and do nothing. So I guess my issue in particular is not necessarily with funding, but it's the lack of the school district taking the reins to access all the funding that is available to them, and being able to apply that funding wisely, and not listening to parents when they go to an IEP meeting. There's very low expectations for our children. It's kind of sad when a teacher is teaching how to crush hands. I think that's pretty sad when the teacher is asked to teach that and not teach Braille or some other subject that is very important. My child is much smarter than to spend her life crushing hands. So I think the low expectations is the biggest thing that I have a problem with, and not being heard when I'm trying to interact with the school district as far as IEPs. To me, that's the biggest thing. If they would listen to me, I know what I'm talking about. I happen to be the expert on my child. I try to help the teacher in every way that I possibly can. We have some good teachers, but you're going to have to support that teacher. And if you don't support the teacher, the school district's going to have to support that teacher. And if they do not, then we're going to continue to get the same thing we've had. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
And then if you could go see Ashley in the back, we can get your contact information and maybe able to put you in touch with some resources. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Karen Elliott. I am the parent of a 17-year-old young lady who has Down syndrome. She also has hearing impairment, and she is a student here at Point High School. I am also a special education advocate and volunteer my time with families in order to help them to team with their teachers and their related services providers, so that it's a whole child approach and not an adversarial approach. So with that knowledge, please accept my comments. First of all, I have to ask that you consider transition from school age into high school and on into adulthood with relation to partnering with vocational rehab. I am not seeing at all any partnership between the two agencies of the Sierra Vista Public Schools and vocational rehab. Vocational rehab tells me that they are not invited to meetings by the school district, and I see a very big disconnect in the communication I'm somebody who knows to ask. What about the parent who doesn't know to ask? That is a huge issue. Okay, related service providers. I have seen over the course of the last 4 years that we have been here, that every year there is a new speech therapist serving the needs of my child. I was excited when I was asked to attend a meeting regarding telepractice in the district. I was even more heartened to hear that they were only applying this to children to whom it would be appropriate. Very excited to hear that. My daughter was determined not to be one to use telepractice, which is fine. But the fact that I have seen a different speech therapist every single year, and the fact that my child is having to deal with someone who is so overworked that she is only given a very small amount of time to see all the children at Wayne High School, how is each child's IEP going to be appropriately addressed and administered with a limited amount of time and funding? Which goes to everybody else's comments about funding for the school system at large. But related service personnel deserve our thanks because they do a lot for our kids. Okay, then I have a big issue with the notification under IDEA of parents when a team member is not going to be present at the meeting. I have had to call a meeting myself and say, we're not continuing because I don't have this person at the meeting who is listed on the invitation to the meeting. I have experienced in this district that we are asked to sign a release, basically, that this person is excused when IDEA specifically says that we are to have prior written notice and we are to be able to look at the data prior to the meeting. Therefore, this is something that concerns me greatly, not only for me, but for other parents. And then my last point is that there is a big issue at Wayne High School with the ratio of students to teachers and parents. I understand we only have so many teachers. I understand we only have so many parents. The issue becomes when you have a greater ratio that is, as is mentioned in the state regulations, of teacher to student. How are we properly giving each child faith according to their IEP? And how are they being educated in the least restrictive environment if they do not have appropriate ratios that enable the teacher to do the job that they want to do? Thank you very much. I look forward to your comments. Karen Elliott.
And again, if you could go see Ashley at the back, and get your contact info. Thank you. And then before Kimberly and Jalen up, I'd like to read the next 5 names. I have Debbie Hickman, Sharon Young, Michelle Hoppen, Kale Kiabin, I guess that one, and Melissa Avant.
Hi, my name is Jalen Jones. What I think about the testing is that there's too much testing because, like, the testing can sometimes be harsh on the kids. There shouldn't be as much testing as there usually is. And with as much testing as there is, there should still be a little bit testing, but not like 50% of the time in class. We're either doing something we get on a grade or something else. And after, when we do a test, I feel like a ghost, because like when there's classroom work and I need help, there's like 30 students, so I kind of get to feel like a ghost with how much kids there are. At my old school, there was 20 kids in the classroom. There's 30. And it's just hard because there's only one teacher with 30 students. So like when I need help, she can't help, she's helping with another student. But we do need to do a little bit of testing because when I took a test after or during the test or before, I get confused in the middle because like maybe I've been absent this week and then I came back on the day where we were doing the test the next day when like I missed a whole lesson of what we were doing. So that's kind of hard for me and it makes my head hurt. Sometimes I come home and I say, hey mom, I gained 10 pounds of stress. Testing is hard. We shouldn't do much testing next year because I know that some kids don't really like taking so much tests because it's like each week we do take a test. I know that we take a lot of tests and sometimes some of it is confusing and when you're trying to answer a question and you're trying to figure it out on a piece of scratch paper and it times you, that's not right. The child or kids should get as long as they need to find out the question, not of a certain limited time to answer the question. Thanks.
Excuse me, I'm going to break my phone. What grade are you in?
Going into 5th.
Okay, great. And you took AC Merit this year?
Yes.
How long did it take you?
Sometimes it takes me half an hour, sometimes an hour.
Forgive me, folks, that was a student exemption.
My name is Kimberly Jones, and I live in Sierra Vista. That is my awesome daughter. Jalen enjoys learning, and she eagerly participates in her class, is helpful, compassionate, and brings home good grades. I'm a product of and believe in public education. On the other hand, Jalen has never hated school until this year. And when I asked her why, she told me she felt like a ghost in her class. When she needed help, her teacher was too busy. And she always had to use a little flip chart. The flip chart had 3 colors. One was green for I'm good on my project, I don't need any help. Yellow was for, yeah, I'm kind of struggling, but I'm going to figure this out on my own. And red was SOS, I need help now. I don't so much object to that as much as I find it concerning that my daughter would come home from school and not have received the help that she needed. So I figured, okay, let's do plan B. Historically, we've always been able to jump online, find good instruction that correlated with what she was learning in the classroom. When I asked for help, I got very generic referrals to very generic websites. And I know from experience that there is a better system with the internet. By some estimates, 50% of students are spending their time in testing and not learning. I have a serious issue with that. One size does not fit all when it comes to Common Core teaching. I say this after living in rural communities where there were different predominant cultures, and I expect that children have different core value systems, different ethnic systems, different ways of learning, and you can't squeeze everybody into one shoebox. Excuse me. The NSA was recently reined in for collecting private data, And I remain extremely concerned about data mining by for-profit companies when it comes to our children. I strongly object to data mining, and I have requested from our local school district, our local school board, information on exactly what data is collected, how it is used on a local level, and what data is provided to the national level. I haven't heard back. In May, I emailed our local school principal, who was open and very quick to respond. But by the time I heard back from her, I pretty much made my decision. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I am not a prude, but I also remain very concerned about the curriculum that's being taught. I've seen many examples of literature that I consider pornography. I also saw one example of a story that an 8-year-old was to draw a conclusion from. While I don't know that this is going on in our local school district, because I do trust some of our school board members that I know, I would still like to know what the curriculum is, what the reading assignments are, and exactly what my child is absorbing. This example is why. This was provided to an 8-year-old. Ruby sat on the bed, shared with her husband, holding a hair clip. There was something mysterious and powerful about the cheaply manufactured neon clip that she was fondling in her newly suspicious palms. She didn't recognize the hair clip. It was too big to be their daughter's, and Ruby was sure that it wasn't hers. She hadn't had friends over in weeks, but here was this hair clip, little and green, with a few long black strands caught in it. Ruby ran her fingers through her own blonde hair. She had been vacuuming when she noticed the small bright green object under the bed. Now their life would never be the same. She would wait here until her husband returned. The only natural conclusion from this story is that Dad's having an affair on Mom. Why is this in the 8th grade Common Core curriculum? So again, I realize that we are all trying to do the best with what we have, that funding is short, that there are many demands on the school board, on our community volunteers, and on our kiddos. But that doesn't mean that we can't hold ourselves to a higher standard and push it back up the ladder. I, as a parent, am very hesitant to opt out. I'm very pro working with you, working with the system, asking questions, and advocating for change. But I will tell you straight up, data mining will take my support and will make me a very vocal opponent. So thank you for coming, thank you for listening, thank you for doing the best with what you have, and I would love to work with you more.
I have Debbie, next, Debbie.
Hi, I'm Debbie, and I'm a former teacher in Sierra Vista. I'm retired now. About 15 years ago, I took off around the world and did teaching in a lot of developing countries, and I have a kind of unique perspective I'd like to bring based on that. And I guess to be, oh, the mic, okay, sorry. And one of the perspectives I have is privatizing our public education system is the worst possible thing we can do for children. It is horrible. Now let me tell you my experience though. I have taught in over 5 different developing countries, and I have taught in the nicest schools you will ever want to be in. The children pay $25,000 a year, every child, to get into that school. And yes, they're big companies. Shell Oil was a big one when I was in Malaysia. But yeah, they pay for this. But that both parents, you know, one parent is working lots of times because they can't in some countries. But yes, they pay it more than. But these kids are well endowed. They have very intact parents. And the school they choose to attend is a private school, and it is so well endowed. They treat the teachers extremely well. I felt like I was a really important person there, I mean, they give you things, they give you not just presents, but they're always trying to find conferences you can go to around the world and things like that. And they're looking for the best possible teaching practices. And you know what? It's an American system we work to. They really value the American education system. But here's the reason we don't privatize. Because right down the road is their government schools, where kids aren't very rich, like about 80% of the population. And you got classes of 60 kids, you got these underfunded government schools with poor kids. And this is the way it was in Turkey, in Kazakhstan, Kuwait, of all places, because there's a lot of people rich there, but India, and you see the danger of becoming one of these third world countries, and that just tears me up, because American education is respected. Now, I will say this, when I came and I first taught about 20 years ago here in Sierra Vista, it reminded me of the good private school I was teaching at in Malaysia the last 3 years. And it just kind of broke my heart. When I came back here and subbed a little, I saw the incredible music programs, the art production. We had parents involved. It was great. Kids at 4th grade got to choose a language that they would start learning by a native speaker. And the other thing which reminds me, what those kids do not get in those government schools, because the private schools are so endowed, what they don't get is English. And that's why people send their kids to these private schools and all over the world, because the kids are going to become taught by native speakers of English. That is gold. That is your wealth in this world. And those little kids that go to government schools where everybody's trying as hard as they can, they are begging to learn English. And I'm telling you, it's the same thing. It may not be English we're talking about, but it's great teachers that are highly paid and well endowed with a lot of money that are your better teachers. And then you've got the poor struggling teachers in these government schools that have no money, got 60 kids in a class, hardly anything to work with, and the gap between the rich and the poor will only increase in this country, and it will make it into those third world countries. That's so sad, because it's so hard to change that around. And I can't tell you enough how much American education is respected around the world. And even the British, I work with a lot of British people, and I just kind of shake my head sometimes. I said, "Did you do that in school?" And it was like, no, there are so many strengths in the American education system. We don't want to privatize it. We want to just make it better. And I can tell you, 15 years ago, I thought the schools were actually more like 20 years ago. When I was teaching in Sierra Vista, the schools were more like those good private schools. But that was our public schools like that then. Now I go into these classrooms and I see these piles of papers, there's not even a textbook to support them. And another thing is, I had technology support in these private schools that you would just not even have in your whole district. At the 4th grade where I taught, I had a tech support person. She came to all of our group meetings. We integrated our ancient China units and our electricity units. So everything these kids did was integrated with technology. And those kids were wonderful. And it was just a terrific school. And we could make all American schools that great if we put our mind in education. And Common Core or not is not the issue. You let teachers teach. And if you look at the Finnish system, which gets the best scores in the world on every test, they pay their teachers highly, and they say, be creative, do your thing, minimal amount of testing, maybe once every 3 years. Okay.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Sharon Young. I'm a math teacher here at Buena High School, and I'll be brief. I feel that having schools test the AZ merit this past year was putting the cart before the horse. While teachers were given the standards, they were not defined enough. The performance levels are just now being reviewed as to what students are expected to know and to do. There are no exemplars as of yet. And although I've been through 30 hours of standards training, and I have taught more than 40 years, I do not feel confident in my preparation to teach the new standards. Thank you.
Michelle?
My name is Michelle Kaufman, and I appreciate you coming here to listen to our concerns and also, any suggestions that we have. Currently, I am the Career and Technical Education Director for the Santa Cruz Valley Unified School District, number 35. So I service the Rio Rico population, and there's one high school, 2 middle schools, and 3 elementary schools. And so I consider my job where I'm servicing all of the students there, but I'm primarily working with the high school and middle schools. We are a part of the Pima County JTED, and my main concern or representation here is to express my concern about the catastrophic funding that may occur in the 16-17 school year. It will be devastating to our students and my community. Even though I live in the Tucson, Oro Valley community, I travel every day to go service those students, and I'm proud to do that. Currently, that is the major funding source for us, and I have fantastic programs. And if those funding sources are cut, I may not be able to make payroll. When I hear people that have talked about businesses and stuff coming, that is my primary goal, is to provide a workforce for Arizona. And I can't do that as well without that funding source. I have never gotten so emotional. I've been in education for a long time, and the kids that I service there have been one of the most wonderful groups that I have ever dealt with. It is worth my 143 miles an hour, or 143 miles a day to go service those students. So it disheartens me that we have representatives here, or community members that would defend them. I primarily deal with the Hispanic population, and I have had great respect of those students. I'm proud of them, and some of my teachers are the best that I've ever worked with. I have been a principal, I have been an assistant principal, and I just love what I do. So my main thing is please, I utilize your services. I cannot tell you how much I utilize it. Do whatever you can to get that funding back, because it is just going to be devastating to our community. I have spoken at the Chamber of Commerce meetings. I just got done with the Rotary meetings, and I just feel that how that program, or how the funding was, it may be jeopardized, was underhanded. And with the people that were voting on that were not told the ramifications of what would be happening. The voters voted on that funding, and it's, and so not only as a recipient, I'm paying into the Pima County JTED of where I live. And as a citizen, that is not what I voted for. I did not vote for the money that I put in there through my taxes and whatever to be taken and and to backfill a system that is not funded appropriately. When I voted for JTED funding, I voted it to go to career and technical education. I did not vote for it to go into maintenance and operation to schools that where 7.5% of the funding is taken away. That is not what I voted for. And it disheartens me when I go and I talk to people in a community that they were misled at this point. It bothers me. I try to stay out of the politics, but I am being forced into having to advocate for the students and the people that I serve. So that piece of it, I would like to be heard. The other part with the AZ merit is most of the teachers that I have worked with, not just in where I'm at, but throughout my career, is they generally don't have a problem with having some type of idea of where their students are being assessed and having some type of baseline. But one of the problems is, and I appreciate the little girl's comments, is April is not a good month. You can hardly get any testing in or any other type of educational processes going in because of all the testing. The way that it was implemented this year was very detrimental, and it put a large burden on the schools. They not only had to deal with scheduling issues, but there was also the infrastructure problems of the of servers, just the basic operations of the computer programs. Then on top of that, we had the blended career and technical education assessments that are done twice a year. So I had to juggle my schedule because we only have a window of time as well to manage that, and our servers won't handle all the online testing at once. So the entire district had to come up with patterns and times when they could do the testing. So I guess my part with that is yes, you need to have some type of assessments. Yes, data needs to be gathered to an extent, but at the same time, when things are being implemented, please realize the impact of how it affects schools and districts. Those organizations can't respond quickly to big changes like that, and so it's better to be phased in. That's my piece. So I appreciate it, and I invite you at any time to come and see our programs.
I have Kale next.
Hi, I'm Kale Kiabu. I live here in Sierra Vista. I'm not a parent, not a teacher. I'm here because I'm concerned about how our tax dollars were spent. I am a product of public education. It's been more than 40 years, almost 40 years since I graduated from high school. I went into the Army after I graduated from high school, and I have the list of four boys. All of us went to the same schools, we had the same teachers, we had the same parents, we had different interests. So what we got out of school is what we put into it individually. It wasn't the school, it wasn't the teachers, and it wasn't my parents. We're all the same. But we all ended up in different fields, different levels of education. So I think that has a lot to do with it, where all we talk about a lot of times is just put more money into the school system. I'd like to expand or just add on to what the gentleman over here, when he said gobbledygook, because I'm a taxpayer and concerned about education, I did go to a meeting up in Phoenix. I do live here in Sierra Vista. And in the meeting, there were a group of parents that were talking about testing. Now, I'm not sure exactly what testing they were talking about, because they were talking about things that I didn't know anything about. I don't have kids. But some of for those parents that actually talk to those kids, and the kids respond back to what they got on the test, it sounded like gobbledygook. Not math, not history, not reading, not science. It was stuff that had nothing to do with that. And I will say that the result of my public education is I can do math, I can read and I can write, which is what they used to call three-run arithmetic. And I don't work anymore, but I did go to nursing school after retiring from the Army. And in 1999, one of the first classes I had to take was medical math. The only thing I got out of that class were the medical terms. Because the math that was involved, I got in 7th grade. That was in the early 70s. So in 1999, there were people, I was concerned because there were people in my class, young people, hadn't been out of high school for very many years, that had problems with fractions, decimals, percentages. And when I think about education, all money we keep saying we need more of, maybe we should teach math the way I learned math. That's all I have to say. About funding. There were several bills that went through legislature this year on public lands. Now, I understand because one of the things I've learned the last couple of years is I've learned more about my government, which I didn't learn, at least not to the extent that I know now when I was in school. And about public education and funding, when Arizona became a state, we voluntarily turned over, or actually, federal government had. Federal government granted us some lands, but they kept the rest of it. Those public lands, which they have control of now, which comprise about approximately 44% of the state, was supposed to be sold. 5% of the proceeds of the sales were supposed to come back to the state and help fund public education. And that still holds true, so the bills that were moved through legislature this year were for the state to take control of those lands and actually use it so that the revenues that we get off those lands that currently are being used, or for the most part are being used, are heavily regulated, so it costs more to use. We'd have more funding for education. Thank you.
And before Melissa speaks, I do have 2 additional names up here. I have Jeff Ofstedal and Kim Moschetti. So if there's anyone else who would like to speak, please feel free to wave the card and Ashley will come grab it. Thank you.
Good morning. First off, I want to say thank you for coming down and giving us this opportunity. I also want to say thank you to everybody in attendance for giving up your time to come and speak about education. So thank you very much. As you can see, education is As you can see, education is very passionate. We have a group of different opinions, which is okay, and it's needed, and everybody should have their opportunity to speak their own opinions. So I want to thank everybody for that, for standing up and talking about what you feel is needed for education. I also want to address some of the local issues. If individuals feel like it's a local issue, which I've heard today, please come to your local school board. Your local school board is governing over those local issues and our local budget. So please engage your elected officials from the local Sierra Vista Unified School District or any other district that you're a part of. I want to say thank you to Ms. Jalen. That was amazing. We should be asking our kids what they feel and how they really utilize that easy merit this year. I have 2 children, one's a sophomore, going to be a junior, and my youngest one is going into 7th grade. And they do have their own experiences over the testing, and it would be amazing if you did a listening tour of our kids and what they feel about what easy merit and what standardized testing means to them. I will say that you'll probably get a lot of comments, just like Jalen's, very concerned and very, lots of stress. I understand standardized testing. I do believe there's a need for that. It creates a baseline. However, a comic that a good friend gave to me, it was a comic strip that really resonated with me. And it was a tree. There was a tree, and there was a giraffe, and a monkey, and a zebra, and other types of animals. And they all said, and the teacher said, now climb the tree. Now, a monkey's going to climb a tree differently than a giraffe or a zebra. And so what I take from that is that all kids learn differently. They're all unique in the way that they learn. And so I feel like that has been missing in our education system, and I feel like we need to get back to that. Also, I want to just talk a little bit on funding. From a local school district point of view, we do have a lot of state mandates that come down that really alter what we need to do for our kids in our budget system. And if we're mandated to do something with no additional funding, where does our funding go? Well, the funding goes to help those mandates. And so we can't help have the children receive the funding that they need, or more importantly, give raises to our teachers to recruit and retain high-quality teachers. I know within districts there are 5 to 7 years with no funding increases or no salary increases, which is a big problem. It's a big problem to recruit and retain our qualified teachers. So I really would stress on the legislature to work in collaboration and partnership with your local school districts and really understand what their needs are. And then I think the overall theme that you've heard today is change is needed. There is change. Change needs to happen within our education system. And I don't know how you go about doing that, but I do think more collaborations and partnerships with your own local elected officials and with our statewide representatives and with you, Ms. Douglas. So I appreciate you for coming. I want to say our county is amazing in what they do. Our school districts are great all across the county, and we have wonderful success stories, but we could be better, and I know we can get there. So thank you.
Jeff?
Hopefully that'll work. Good morning. My name is Jeff Ostadal, and I'm a high school science and engineering teacher, and I'm angry. When we talk about what's wrong in education, all we ever hear is these stories of terrible schools, terrible administrators, terrible teachers. And in the 8 years that I've been teaching, I have yet to meet any of these mythological creatures. In all the dialogue about what's wrong in education, one of the things that no one's ever talking about is what's the student's role within their own education and the parent's role in supporting their students' education. And in both of these aspects, we need to be better, much better. And before anyone judges me thinking that I'm ragging on our kids, I love our kids. Our kids are awesome. We have the best students ever. And that they are facing challenges that you and I, in our generation, was never asked to face in our educational careers. No, I'm here to advocate for my students and advocate on their behalf and talk about why are students becoming disadvantaged in their own education. There's a little word that I like to use, and I call it hope. And I'm not entirely sure that students of today's generation have a lot of hope or see a lot of hope for a better future for themselves. And that even in the teens, they're starting to just give up. We're seeing absenteeism at rates I can't even imagine, and truancy. And one of the things I like to task your office with, Superintendent Douglas, is giving schools more support for high absentee rates and truancy, to go after that and get the students back into the school. But as we address this disenfranchisement that our students are having, and we have to think about why is that, we need to communicate with our students on what their thoughts are, what their feelings are. You need to communicate with those families and why a lack of hope is sinking their education. Testing, we've said a lot about testing today. We've gone from Ames and students having to pass the Ames in order to graduate. And that was one test once in their sophomore year, I apologize. And that if they didn't pass that test, they got to repeat it, and that we were dangling the diploma for having to pass it. And for some students, it just became an impossibility for them to pass it. Again, that speaks to hope. Now we've done away with the graduation requirement for the Ames testing, switched to easy merit. And I'm wondering what we really traded for. Because now instead of one test per course subject during their high school career, now they're testing in every year, in every core class, their end of course assessment tests. And the students are fed up, the parents are fed up, and I'm fed up. I'm not saying that I spend time teaching to the test, because I absolutely do not. I spend no time teaching to the test. I teach my classes. I teach my content, I teach my classes, I teach to the standards. By golly, if you're teaching the standards, then the students are going to get that, and then they'll do well on the test. My students have always done really well on our science tests. And so the idea here is, if they had to test year after year after year, and then this year we also added 3 Galileo testing sessions to the school year, and that's insane. You have to stop the insanity. Every teacher knows it. Every administrator knows it. And at some point it's time for the politicals to know it. College. That goes to hope again. With the incredible cost, the unattainable cost of higher education, what we're asking of our high schools is to start picking up that slack of the training that students would have gotten had they been able to afford to go into college or university. And so to that point, I absolutely support the JTEC programs. I absolutely support adding more vocational education back into our high schools. And I'm not talking about careers classes where they sit and study about different careers. I'm talking about courses that are giving them the training and the technical training to engage in the career path that they want to pursue. And so we need to be adding that back into our high schools, because the high schools are having to fill in the gaps that higher education used to do. And so I hope that you'll take that into high regard. I think that your office could do an awful lot to encourage community industry partnerships with schools to help us attain the goal of more career path-oriented students. And one of the things that I find incredibly frustrating, especially here in Sierra Vista, is the companies that are complaining about always having to recruit from outside our county, outside our state, find qualified people to fill their positions, and yet they do nothing to step up to help the educational institutions within their communities to do just that. And so I don't know what can be done, but I'd like there to be some kind of focus on trying to increase industry partnership with education. Teacher support. A lot of this does go to the funding issue, and I don't think that funding in and of itself is the big issue. I think it's the bouncing ball of funding that is the bigger issue. The fact that the state will just arbitrarily take money away from schools mid-year and say, oh, by the way, we're not paying for January and February, and these things happen. And then administrations having to make cuts. I think one of the big cuts can be to those districts that are so administration heavy. Funding dollars needs to go into the classroom. Funding dollars needs to go to support the teachers. You can look at my tax preparation every year for the last 8 years, and I put between 5 and 10% of my salary into my classroom to support my students, to buy supplies, to buy equipment that the school can't or won't. And name any other profession that has to fund their own job. I think teacher salaries, when you have teachers that have gone without any kind of raise or promotion for 5 or 6 years, what's their incentive to remain a teacher? And hence the teacher frustration level is incredibly high. Many of the teachers at my school have part-time jobs, including myself, just to make ends meet. And you know, we're professionals. We go to school, we're educated, we have degrees. I have a master's degree in education, I'm working on my PhD, and I have to keep a part-time job just to make ends meet. Make no mistake, I love what I do. I love teaching, I love interacting with the students, I love helping them develop for the future. And I don't ever want to have to stop doing that. But in terms of teacher support, why are so many teachers washing out within the first few years of becoming a teacher? And if you think about somebody who spent their college career to get a teaching certificate, you know, that's their dream, that's their lifelong dream. And most of those dreams were inspired by teachers that we had as students, as was I. I had some incredible science teachers. And John, thank you for being a science teacher. Anyways, and that, why would people be washing out of their dream? You have to start thinking about that. You have to start addressing those issues. One of the solutions that University of Arizona South has for the transition to teaching program is a strong teacher mentoring program. And Superintendent Douglas, I would really encourage you in your office to develop strong teacher mentoring programs for new teachers and for teacher retainment. Lastly, leadership. And I don't speak to this issue lightly. We need leadership at the state level when it comes to education. And this is just my humble opinion. We haven't had that this year. We see the state leadership in disarray, in petty political fights. We see our state leadership changing the rules just about every month as we go along. We were doing Ames, no, we're doing PARC, no, we're doing AZ Merit. The standardized testing rules changed 3 or 4 times in the course of 2 months within just a week of us having to do the standardized testing. We need to get our act together because, golly, somebody in education needs to be the adults, and it better be us. Superintendent Douglas, I believe in the core of my heart that you want to make education better in Arizona. I believe that. And I trust that through outreaches like this and working together with your school districts and department schools and teachers that we can make that happen. And what I want to hear in terms of leadership are, what are the ideas that are going to make that happen? I keep hearing things like, I'm working for the kids. I keep hearing things like, I care about our schools, we want to make education better. Well, what are we doing to work for the kids? What are we doing to make the schools better? How are we improving education in Arizona? We need more than just catchphrase lip service. And I apologize, I don't mean it as a personal slight to you. I'm asking you for leadership in this state and to be an advocate for the students, be an advocate for your schools, and be an advocate for your teachers. Thank you very much.
Kim next. I wanted to read the last 4 that I have up here. So after Kim, we'll have Terry Roma, Ebony McKinney, Danielle Brown, and Lee Toole.
Good morning. My name is Kim Moschetti. I'm a teacher, 5th grade in the Sierra Vista district. I came to teaching a little late in life. My husband and I are retired military. We both came into teaching just because it's so fun. Go Jeff. I hate to follow him because he just took everything right out of my mouth. I don't have much else to say after that. There were many, many issues that came up here. One of the didn't is teacher evaluations, but that's a whole nother issue. Public education, yes, go. Money for textbooks, yes, we need that, but we make do with what we have because we're teachers. Classroom sizes, working on that, but I have to tell you, like the young lady that spoke for us here, having 32 students in a classroom is very difficult to give each and every one of them 100% of my attention, but I try very hard to do that. 99 is usually what I end up giving each one. There are a lot of inequities in our education system, and I think we recognize that here today. And this forum is just like a classroom, actually, and there are many, many different opinions, many, many different learning styles, understanding styles, teaching styles, and beliefs. And I think this open forum is a good way to see what is actually going on in the classrooms. We have a lot of different students in a lot of different areas. I teach 5th grade, but I can have a student that is reading on a 1st grade level, clear up to a student reading at 12th grade level. And I need to bring all of that together. And we try very hard to do that. And as Jeff said, teaching is all about, it's all about the love. It's all about enjoying it. So on that note, as I said, you said most of what I wanted to say already. I do want to say one thing about, one thing I've been disappointed in is the infighting that has taken place in the Department of Education. I think that we need to focus more on what is happening with education rather than who's going to be in what building and so forth. So we can direct our money and our energy in a better, much better place than that. As far as testing, we need to have some sort of standardized testing. Every teacher knows that. We have to have something that says, yes, you can move on to the next grade. We need to have something that is statewide and nationwide so that our children are given every opportunity to compete in the workforce. Common Core is one of those alternatives. At this point, unless there's another viable alternative out there presented to us, I think we need to work with what we have. That's what a teacher has to do. We can't continually change from moment to moment. We do need caring parents. I think that was brought up as well. And supportive parents. It is difficult to work with children when we don't have parent support, and we do have lots of parent support. I don't want to say that, but just to keep it up. In a world where both parents are working, it becomes a very difficult thing to do. So anytime a parent can offer us a moment of their time and talk with their child, like some of these parents here have done, well, that's always welcome. In conclusion, I just would like to request of you, Superintendent Douglas, when you make your decisions, please make them logically and not politically, and please make them from your heart, because that's where our decisions are coming from, and that's where our profession is coming from. It's not about the money, it's about the love. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Terry Romo, and I'm the Curriculum Director for Service Unified School District. I consider myself an educator, and my most important job is that I'm also a parent. In my opinion, the issue truly isn't Common Core. As Kim mentioned, it's our constant change of what we're expecting our teachers to teach. That's the issue. Teachers didn't get into education to teach standards. They got into education to teach children. That's why we're here. As much change as I know needs to happen in our process of education, every time we make changes to standards, I believe we're playing the old-fashioned Jenga game with our children's education. Every time we decide to take out one of those old-fashioned wooden blocks and we move it over here, or we decide to add one, eventually our children's education system is going to fall over. Our students have to have stability. Our teachers are amazing. They will teach and they will do anything that really is asked of them to do, but please stop moving the target for us. Please let us know where to head, and we will get there. Our teachers' plates are overflowing. We can't ask for another thing. We need to take things off and help prioritize what's in the best interest of our children. Our teachers deserve more when it comes to funding. Our students need access to more. And what I ask is just, in my conclusion, is to please think through the changes that you make. Please remember that the end of those decisions are professionals who give their heart and soul day in and day out, as Kim and Jeff mentioned. And please remember that our precious children are the ones who are impacted by all the fighting, all the arguing, all the disagreement, and all the change. Please let's keep it focused on the children. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Emily McKinney, and I just finished my 7th year as a 5th grade teacher. I am president of the Teachers Association and proud member of the Arizona Education Association. As a teacher, I don't have an issue with Common Core. I think there is a lot of merit to that. Kids are different, and there are different methods in which to teach those children. So I think it offers opportunity. As far as testing goes, 6 weeks of testing is what we did this year. It was not fun. It was not fun for the kids. All of the projects that we had planned at the end of the year, we didn't get to do because we were busy testing. So I understand and I value the data that comes from it, but I don't think that we need test after test after test. I think Jeff mentioned that the value of education is no longer there. Students come to school and they come hang out. I teach 5th grade, they're a little older. I have one in particular this year who was very bright, but absolutely did not turn in a single assignment all year long. I spoke with Dad on more than one occasion, fairly regularly, and his only concern was, well, if he passes the test, does he move on? And unfortunately, I had to say yes, that is the case. If he passes the benchmark test, he passes the integrated test, then yes, he will move on to the next grade. Did he get everything he could have? I don't know. But for me as a teacher, it's frustrating when the support and the value is not there. I absolutely believe that public education should stay public. I am a proud military brat. I attended public schools around the world. I had a very fortunate life in that I could have been in a very different situation where public education could have been my only out. And so for us to consider taking that away from kids would be a detriment to our communities and the rest of the world. I think teaching is not as fun as it used to be. My first year of teaching, I had 28 kids and no students with special needs. Last year, I had 30 children and 7 with IEPs. The lowest being one that read at a kinder level when she was in 5th grade. So the amount of time that I spent with that group of children absolutely outweighed the amount of time that I spent with the rest of the children in my classroom. I think when decisions are being made, it's important to get input from the people who deal with children on a daily basis. You are in elected positions, and I understand that, but I think teacher input absolutely will make a difference in the decisions and the changes that need to happen in education. All I ask is that you consider that. We happily will fill out a survey, the shorter the better. However, teachers want to be involved. We want to make that what we're saying is being listened to and is taken into consideration. So thank you for your time. Can you hear me? Sorry, I have a croaky voice. My name is Danielle Brown, and I stand before you as a proud association member, a proud National Board Certified teacher, and even more so, a proud public educator. Now, my pride doesn't lie in the initials behind my name. My pride doesn't lie in my salary. My pride lies in my students, those kids who are 4, 5, and 6. Those kids who come to school and don't ask, but expect me to do my best. Whether that be the conversation of funding, of standards, when you're 4, 5, and 6, you come to school to have fun. I had a student beginning of the school year say to me, on the very first day we're going through, he raised his hand, and he has a speech impediment, and he says, Ms. Boyle, isn't school supposed to be fun? And I said, what? Isn't school supposed to be fun? He wanted school to be fun. His only expectation is that I would engage him and do my very best to teach him. And I think in these conversations, we talk about assessment, that we talk about funding, we talk about standards. We can't lose sight of those 4, 5, and 6-year-olds. Because those 4, 5, and 6-year-olds are the ones who grow up to take AIDS, merit, AIDS, whatever test is out there. And so sometimes I go in conversation, primary and early childhood education is not on the table when discussed. These conversations are meant to be K-12. And I just really hope that there's more focus and sight on that K-12 piece. Or that K-1, 2, 3 piece. And I do have to say to Ms. Williams, I met before at a state meeting for developmentally appropriate assessment, and so I know that the state is doing things on that level, but I just want to make sure that as decisions are made and as teacher voices heard, we talk to those teachers and parents, because kids may not be able to advocate so righteously for themselves like you did. Well, like she did, my students may not have that opportunity, so to make sure that those educators and parents and people involved in their lives do. Thank you.
I think I'm the last one. Good morning. Thank you for being here today. My name is Lee Ajumi. I am a health educator and exercise specialist here in the county. I work as a part of a team that provides health and wellness and chronic disease prevention programs all throughout Cochise County. I'm excited to tell you tell you that there are many organizations sharing resources and collaborating together to support local school health advisory councils, especially here in Sierra Vista. I would like to encourage you to positively support health and wellness in schools. When you support health and wellness, you are really reinforcing a lot of work that the school health advisory councils and all the organizations are doing collaboratively and working towards a healthier community. So thank you.
That's the last name I have, so if we do have anyone else who would like to speak, please feel free to come up and give us your name.
Sorry. Just take a minute. Hi, I'm Katie Miller, and I'm on the St. David School Board. One comment the fifth grade teacher made just made me decide to come back. I came here mainly to listen to see what people were going to have to say. But her comment about attending schools all around the world speaks to something that I feel is very important. We all talk about school choice. Well, if we take this to a national level, where every school in this whole country is the same, and if you move from one school to another on January 6th, and your child is going to be taught the very exact same thing that a child in Sierra Vista was taught, is going to be taught in Omaha, Nebraska, I feel we've lost school choice. I am an Air Force brat. I never felt that I was deprived or held back by changing schools every 3 to 4 years. Some kids change every year in the military. I was lucky in that I was able to change every summer. We were just lucky that way. I didn't have to change in the middle of the school year, so I was blessed. But if schools, yes, we need a basic level that children should have to achieve. I have no problem with standards. I have no problem with having a good level so that they can go on, like Kale said. What we learned in 7th grade in math, I know my fractions to this day, but my daughter just graduated and I don't know that she does. And to me that is terrible. But back to school choice. If I don't have the choice to move my child to what I feel is a better school, then you have taken away my choice by having every school the same across this nation. This is not just about Arizona. This is about the National Department of Education that I will stand here as a school board member and tell you, the Department of Education needs to go away. And I have had ASBA tell me, oh, no, Kate, no, we need all this stuff to be the same across this country, and that is crap. And so, biggest thing we can do is to work for getting rid of the Department of Education, but that's my own little thing. But anyway, if we really truly want school choice, we need to let our schools excel. We need to give them the basics and let them do what they're supposed to do, which is teach our children and not test our children to death. Thank you.
All right, anyone else that would like to speak?
I want to thank you all for taking your time to come today, whether you're teachers or governing board members or administrators, parents, taxpayers. We're all part of this system. And I think the one thing that we all agree on is that we want the absolute best for our children. I know from my perspective and what I've heard across the state as I've traveled so far, is that we want our children to have the same blessings that we've had in this nation. So I think we just need to keep the dialogue open on how we get there. I'd like to share just a couple of things that come to mind as I listen to you. To the parents who came, I very much appreciate hearing their stories. When I was on the school board, we had a monthly newsletter that went out, and we were allowed as school board members to write an article for it each, on a rotating basis. And I would always end my articles that asking parents to remember that whether you're a school board member, a teacher, or administrator, you have to advocate for all the children, but only parents can advocate for their child. And I just hope they always remember that. And then the other quick story from my school board days was when I was elected to the school board, I made it my mission to tour every school in the district within the first 3 months I was in office, and we had 40, a little short of 40 schools at that time. And I remember going into our alternative high school, and the principal, when I literally wagged his finger in my face, "Lady, if you serve on the school board, I want you to remember one thing, one size fits one." And that's what we're talking about here. Our children are our blessings, and our children are not all the same. So we have to work together to figure out how do we meet the needs and make all those children be as successful as they can possibly be, because that's what our state and our nation is about, giving those children all the opportunities to excel and be the best they can be, and that will make us the best we can be. So with that, again, I thank you all for taking the time on Saturday morning to come out. Remember, we will be back in the fall to give you the feedback on all that we've done. And thank you. Drive safely going home. God bless.